all my views and all my points that I made. Take it away. Go ahead.
Right, so I want to know where your position originally stands, because you got a lot of things stating along the lines that Trump is familiar with Epstein and good friends with Epstein and stuff like that. Is that basically where you stand?
Sure, my claim is that Donald Trump was best friends with Epstein for over a decade. He knew what Epstein was doing, and the Epstein...
You're going to have to give me a minute, because I'm getting the double feedback. It's picking up the audio from what you're saying, and it's picking up everything that I'm saying in the background.
Sure, yeah, no, yeah, I would just suggest, if you can hear me from Discord, I would just suggest muting the YouTube back screen. Muting the YouTube stream, and then just listen to me from Discord. Cool, yeah. Just mute the YouTube stream. Sure, yeah. My position is that Donald Trump was best friends with Jeffrey Epstein for decades, and in the Epstein files, Donald Trump is credibly accused by a minor of child rape. Not only that, his DOJ has violated 4 federal laws to protect P3DOs via the violating the Epstein Files Transparency Act.
Well, violation of the Epstein Transparency Act is something that was recently passed. So going back to the original claim there that Trump and Epstein were friends and closely affiliated during the 90s is completely accurate. It's true there. However, as it's explicitly stated inside of the Epstein files, Trump never did anything untoward towards any of the proclaimed victims of the Epstein files. They've said so explicitly on multiple local, I guess not local, national broadcast syndicates like MSNBC, where they came out and they said that Trump was very kind and very polite and always appropriate with them. And I might add to that that Trump is a main reason that Epstein was eventually convicted. He kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago whenever he was found to have been making inappropriate advances towards a minor at one of his parties, which originally got him on the FBI's watch list. And then during Trump's first administration is when Epstein was actually convicted and sent to prison and ultimately allegedly died.
Sure. So you made a couple of different points. I thought you continue, but you ended off with died. So you made a couple of different points. So the first one, I mean, I don't want to misinterpret what you said. You said Jeffrey Epstein was arrested because Trump helped. Is that what you said?
Yeah, absolutely. So Trump made the initial claims and brought the FBI attention towards Epstein after he started making advances. He kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago. And then during I got interrupted there. Yeah, and during his first administration, it was when his DOJ actually took Epstein out.
So yes, Donald Trump did kick out Jeffrey Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago, but my only question is, why didn't he do this the first time? So the reason is because Jeffrey Epstein had stolen 2 of his masseuses, right? And they were underage. Donald Trump let it slide the first time. The second time he didn't and kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago, right? And then you said that started the investigation. No, what you're probably referring to, what you probably heard was just a news article that said that Donald Trump called the sheriff's office after his arrest in 2016, saying that he's glad he caught him. We've all known what he's doing, and you should investigate Ghislaine Maxwell. And this has been fact-checked. This is actually what he said to the sheriff in 2006, which goes back to my original point that he did know what he was doing per his statement to the sheriff's department, saying, quote unquote, we knew what he was doing, investigate Ghislaine Maxwell.
Well, I would argue that everyone in any sort of position of authority at that point kind of knew what Epstein was doing. What Epstein had done for his entire career was blackmail high-profile individuals in order to be able to grease some palms for the people that he liked. And according to the Epstein files, the actual ties that Trump and Epstein have together were strictly business-related. After 2016 and after the Mar-a-Lago incident and the DOJ investigation into Epstein, he actively funded Democrat campaigns and actually fed questions and talking points to high-profile Democrat candidates in order to try to sabotage Trump's campaign, because he was, in fact, not very happy with Trump and how he was handling his private life.
So yeah, you can make the claim that like he funded Democratic campaigns, and I wouldn't disagree with you. There are Democrats involved in this, but you said that the Epstein files backs you up. Well, I have a question. Do you believe the victims of Jeffrey Epstein's that got settlement with the Epstein estate that accused Jeffrey Epstein of trafficking them?
Well, I mean, that's kind of a bit of a broad question, I would say. Like, generally speaking, the evidence seems to point towards yes, but to say that it's 100% across the board, everyone who makes a claim was actually accurate and completely honest is a little bit suspect, because given the given the high profile nature of Trump and the negative publicity and the negative press that launched many careers underneath of him, it would be more beneficial for someone to come out and say something along those lines. For instance, you could go into, it wasn't Stormy Daniels, but it was the one woman who says that she was sexually assaulted by Trump in the Bergendorf.
Are you talking about E. Jean Carroll?
That's it, E. Jean Carroll.
Sure, Donald Trump did rape her, though.
No, he didn't. And in fact, he was found civilly liable, not criminally culpable, for rape in the state of New York 30 years after the fact. Like, it's not only is there no statute of limitations, that woman is certifiably insane. She went on, I believe it was CNN, and gloated and talked about how sexy the prospect of rape was.
Yeah, do you want to make a bet on that?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So you think she said she thinks rape is sexy?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. How much do you want to bet on that?
I believe it was on...
No, I'm just asking you, how much do you want to bet on that?
I mean, like, obviously we're talking about hypotheticals here. Like, there's no way any sort of money's going to change hands. But yeah, she went on CNN. I believe it was CNN. It could have been MSNBC, but it's either that.
Sure, like, it doesn't. We're not betting on where she said this on. We're betting on that she said that she thinks rape is sexy. Do you want to bet on that? Do you want to bet $50?
Absolutely.
$50?
No, dog. I'm not giving you money, but we can.
But if you're right, if you're right, wouldn't I be giving you $50?
Yeah, but I don't need $50.
Sure, I'll just play. I'll just
I would rather.
listen. I'll just play the video. It's gonna be. I don't know if it's gonna be hard or easy to hear, due to the fact that it's on Discord. But here's this. YouTube, I'm gonna mute you for a second. But here's this.
Right? I'm not the victim.
You don't feel like it?
I was not thrown on the ground and ravished. Which the word rape carries so many sexual connotations. This was not sexual. It hurt. It just
But I think most people think of rape as it is a violent assault. It is not.
I think most people think of rape as being sexy.
Let's take a short break.
Think of the fantasies.
Mm-hmm. We're just going to take a short
So now can we agree that she did not say this? She did not say that she thinks rape is sexy. She said she thinks other people think rape is sexy. Yes. And while I don't agree with that objectively, I don't think 51% of American society or society in general thinks rape is sexy. I do think a lot of people do find rape to be like sexually arousing for them, only due to the fact that in porn, you can find pornography websites that have subcategories in reference to rape, right? So this isn't far-fetched from reality. So, but the claim that you made is absolutely just like trying to say that a victim said that she thinks her getting raped is sexy, which is a lie. You're just wrong.
Her getting raped was sexy, but that rape itself was sexy. It's.
But she didn't say she thinks that. She said other people think. She said other people think rape is sexy, not her.
No,
She said
most of people. Could you pull up a picture of her smiling while she's saying that and having a good old cut?
Okay, that's just ridiculous, because really, like 10 seconds before that, she literally said, and I quote, "It's hurtful. It's not sexual." That's what she said. She said it was hurtful.
But she also made claims that were completely invalidated. Like, her entire premise was that she was raped in the Bergendorf, which was a very popular department store at the time. It was empty. Somehow they got into a locked room that she didn't have direct access to. Neither did Trump. Trump actually had a hotel directly across the street. So were he to make sexual advances, it would really be more incumbent upon him to move any sort of advances on this woman across the street rather than into a dressing room. And not to mention, she says that she was wearing a dress at the time that didn't even come out until 2 or 3 years after the election.
Well, no, this was hold on. It was in a dressing room. So what you said, it was in a dressing room, not a locked room. It was in a dressing room where then he penetrated her vagina with his fingers, right? The fact that there were not many people around doesn't mean it was a locked or private room. It was a public dressing room where then they entered the dressing room.
She got into a locked room and she doesn't recall how they actually gained access to that room.
Yeah, it was a dressing room of a dressing store.
Mm-hmm. very popular dressing store at the time that would have been full of people and witnesses.
Not necessarily, no. Just because it's a popular store doesn't mean that it's going to be full of people, not 24/7. But just because she made the claim it was in a dressing room doesn't mean that she's not a rape victim. Like, what evidence? So what evidence do you have to believe that she was not raped by Donald Trump?
I would say there's more proclivity towards evidence explaining that she wasn't raped, based on the discrepancies in her actual testimony and saying what happened. She can't remember how they got to the dressing room, how they got past the locked door. She alleges that the dress she was wearing hadn't even come out at the time.
That's not true. It came out in 1980. That's not true. The dress came out in 1980. Then the dress came out in 1980, first off. Second off, just because a victim doesn't remember certain aspects of their traumatic event doesn't mean that they aren't true victims. Third off, you can find more lies within Trump's testimony, lies, quote unquote, because E. Jean Carroll didn't lie, compared to E. Jean Carroll's testimony, which is kept straight for decades. Trump switched up his testimony time after time again, saying that he wouldn't rape her because he's not his type, except he confused her with his ex-wife, Marla Maples. And then he said they never met, which then she contradicted that by pointing out a photo of them standing together, right? So she clearly did meet him. You can point to more lies, especially like a past character. 18 of his peers, 2 juries, determined him to be responsible for the rape of E. Jean Carroll, and you're sitting here denying it.
No, all right. So again, they didn't find him criminally responsible for rape. You're complaining.
I never said criminally.
So being
responsible, being liable just means to be responsible. Guilt just means to be responsible. Like, example.
In a very biased liberal.
No, hold on. That's false. You can't say it's a liberal court. Hold on. Let me explain something. You can't say it's a liberal court.
Sorry?
You can't say it's a liberal court because one of the members there was pro-Trump and was watching pro-Trump people, and Trump's own and E. Jean Carroll's attorneys argued, hey, this is someone pro-Trump, they're going to ruin the case, we have to kick them off. But guess what? Donald Trump's own attorneys argued that no, even though they are pro-Trump and they're watching pro-Trump people, they can't get kicked out of the case because that won't impact the case. Trump's own attorneys argued that the basis of political aspects of it did not impact the case, so that argument is thrown out of the window as soon as Donald Trump's attorney said that.
Again, I feel like it's a lot deeper than that. If you look at the cultural standards of what was going on in New York at the time that case was going on, there was a lot of political violence happening from the left-wing side towards anyone who strayed against the party lines or the agenda that was being pushed.
But there was someone that was pro-right. That guy was pro-right, though.
Who would have abstained their vote because they were a Trump supporter. There's multiple psychological studies that show that people tend to go towards the group. They follow group trends. And that's one. Number two, the political violence was at absolute peak with the BLM riots, and you had countless people on the right being shot, gunned down in the street for just supporting Trump. I can't honestly say.
But it's what Donald Trump's own attorneys argued, though. It's what his attorneys argued, that political bias couldn't be this. It couldn't be the case that someone could get kicked out of it, and it wouldn't impact the case because someone was pro-Trump on there. And you can't just say, oh, someone was pro-Trump, but they went on the bandwagon, right? They were pro-Trump, and they still unanimously concluded that Donald Trump was found to be responsible of raping E. Jean Carroll, and you're over here sitting and denying it.
Again, it does have to be unanimous. You're absolutely right. And so imagine you're sitting in for a jury trial and you're not allowed to leave until everyone agrees on a verdict. You got 99% of the jurors in there who support conviction of Donald Trump, at least not a conviction, I'm sorry, but finding him civilly liable for the sexual assault of E. Jean Carroll, and you have one open dissenter. At any point, it would just be more expedient for that one individual to just want to go along with the crowd to get it all over with. How much does it honestly affect their life? Again, to sit there and say that it wasn't a liberal juror it's asinine. For you to point out one alleged conservative juror and say that it was a fair trial because 99% of the people were against Trump,
we don't know that 99% of the people. We don't know that 99% of the people were against Trump specifically. We're just pointing out one individual that we know for sure was pro-Trump. That's not true. It could have been the case that 2 were pro-Trump or 3 were pro-Trump, and it still could have been the case that they all voted. One documented that we know of because their own attorneys admitted to it, but there could have been more. We don't know the political stance of each individual.
Absolutely. But I would argue that given the political environment at the time, the city that you're in, and who was the prosecutor then? It was that woman that they're trying to hem up now for property management fraud, tax fraud. She's blatantly corrupt. Like, the whole system was literally, like Trump said, it was a witch hunt. It was 40 years after the fact. The woman couldn't remember anything. And you could say that she was a victim of sexual assault. And I would say that a man who's that high profile, those sorts of allegations slung around on almost a daily basis. And one of them is bound to stick. If a million crazy people come out and say Trump sexually assaulted me, one of them will stick. With enough credibility and enough money and enough political backing behind it, they will push it, and they did.
The thing is, she didn't want to push this. In fact, she accused another didn't mention him by name. By the way, he didn't get mentioned by name.
And then went on a national press tour after he was found 40 years later to be civilly liable for sexual assault.
Yes, the reason why he was found civilly, hold on.
Rapist, and you are a liar, and you are blatantly lying.
I never said he was a convicted rapist. I said he was found liable or found to be responsible of rape by forcefully penetrating E. Jean Carroll's vagina. But give me a second. The reason why this even started was because Donald Trump didn't keep his mouth shut, and he defamed her. He called her a liar, and then she said, okay, you want to call me a liar? Okay, let me prove it. And then he sued him for defamation, and the judge said, okay, if you want to win this defamation case, you have to prove that you got sexually assaulted by him. And she said, okay, bet. She was able to prove that unanimously in 2 juries.
Okay, so currently E. Jean Carroll is being sued by the DOJ for fraudulent statements made in that case.
But there's been no charge, and it's in the West, and in the West it's innocent until proven guilty. In the West, it's innocent until proven guilty, and this is even more evidence. In 2025, Donald Trump called for the imprisonment. In 2025, Donald Trump called for the imprisonment of E. Jean Carroll, and now his DOJ is going after E. Jean Carroll. That is something that a rapist who has the most power in the entire world would do. A rapist who has all the power in the world would go after the person that he raped to keep her from talking.
Let's say, like, speaking purely on hypotheticals right now, we're just entertaining the debate, right? Let's say that the DOJ of this current administration goes out and finds E. Jean Carroll to be liable of defamation and lying to the courts. I forget what the term is. I apologize. But let's say that this DOJ determines that she is a liar. Would you accept that?
I would look at the case and look at the evidence of what the DOJ presented.
So if the case and the evidence points towards her lying, would you accept that? There's a politically biased agenda behind it by the most powerful rapist in the world.
If you're saying that the evidence shows that she lied, then she lied. If that's what the evidence shows, then yes, she lied. But the evidence doesn't show that.
I would say that based on the case, the evidence clearly shows that she wasn't being of evidence to say that she was being backed by political agendas.
But you don't have evidence of that. You don't have evidence that she was lying, that she was backed.
There is evidence. I mean, like, I don't obviously have the means to pull it up at the moment, but there is reported evidence that E. Jean Carroll took heavy payments from political donors.
Who are you going to mention? Hoffman, Reid Hoffman? Are you going to say like Reid Hoffman paid for the case, therefore, it's like politically biased? Okay, based? Like, I'm so sorry. Like, even though like a Democrat paid for the case, like, it doesn't really matter. The point is that her evidence, she did not lie within her testimony. Trump did, and you failed to address that. Trump's past characters of admitting to sexual exploitation addresses that. The credible accusations of victims saying that Jeffrey Epstein trafficked him to Donald Trump or her to Donald Trump is also what we take into account. Him saying that he grabs women by the pussy without asking, that's also taken into account. The fact that he didn't give his DNA when an innocent man was being put on trial, not give his DNA, and then has to pay millions of dollars, or would they give their DNA if they're innocent? A reasonable innocent man would give their DNA if they're innocent.
No, honestly, most reasonable innocent men would lawyer up and do everything to hem up the process.
But at the end of the day, they would give their DNA. Like, if it is the case, if you don't give your DNA, you're going to be found liable of this, because that's what that's what the evidence leads to. So a reasonable person in that scenario would give their DNA.
The evidence is one person claiming a thing.
No, it's not. It's not just that.
There were no witnesses to the rape, the alleged rape.
There were witnesses. It's not an alleged rape. The jury determined it to be not. The jury did not determine it to be alleged. She did get raped. It's not alleged, but there were witnesses who at the time after the rape E. Jean Carroll went to, and that story falls in line with the story of E. Jean Carroll's and the multiple other people that she told. In fact, a therapist notes from the 90s also conclude this, and a psychotherapist, a psychoanalysis that determined that she had the same traumatic responses as a rape victim would. All of these evidence, as well as his character priors, as well as many others, conclude that Donald Trump raped E. Jean Carroll.
That doesn't conclude anything other than the woman has a dysfunction that could be attributed to a sexual assault or a rape. And it doesn't indicate at all that Donald Trump would be the one to rape her. Like, all right, can we move past this? Because I don't think we're going to see eye to eye on this. You say that we should believe the person because based off of evidence from third-party people provided years after the fact that Trump is the one who's civilly liable for the rape or sexual assault of E. Jean Carroll. I would argue that the woman was lying and looking for a payday because he was a very wealthy...
She was already a millionaire. She was a millionaire. If she was looking for a payday, why didn't he do it before? He was a billionaire before that. If she was looking for a payday, why did she wait?
If he's going to pay off Stormy Daniels, if he's going to pay off all these other women who he was sexually inappropriate with, which we will both agree on that, he is not a saint. Why wouldn't he pay her off for her silence as well? But
the point is, he didn't pay her off. The jury demanded this to be the case. The jury demanded this. He didn't pay her off in a settlement. I'm not saying that he did pay her off.
He was found liable in court in order to pay a certain amount. But
what's the reasonable doubt? What reasonable doubt do you have to believe that Donald Trump did not rape E. Jean Carroll? Because in order for it to be a criminal court case, it has to be beyond a reasonable doubt, meaning you don't think it would have been a criminal court case. Therefore, what is the reasonable doubt within the case?
The reasonable doubt is the discrepancies in her testimony and what actually happened.
There is no discrepancies. What discrepancies are there? Well, hold on. What discrepancies are there?
I've explained it earlier, how they got past the locked door into a private level of the Bergen door.
It wasn't a private level. It was a public dressing room. What are you talking about? It was a public dressing room.
All right. I mean, read the transcripts, because she claims that they got in past the locked door, but she can't recall how she got into it. No one had access to it. Trump's hotel was right across the street. He was a very wealthy, very popular man at the time, not politically active at all. He could have looked at E. Jean Carroll and said, why don't we go to my room across the street? Why did he rape her in the fucking dressing? Sorry, why did he rape her in the dressing room?
I couldn't tell you why Donald Trump raped her in the dressing room. Why do people rape in general? Like, why do people commit rape in general? Why do people commit crimes?
It's to exert power.
Okay, so then there's your answer. Donald Trump raped E. Jean Carroll to exert power.
I would argue he didn't rape E. Jean Carroll.
So then what's the reasonable doubt? You're making the claim that there's reasonable doubt, but you have failed to provide said reasonable doubt. So what is the reasonable doubt?
Reasonable doubt is the fact that she was on a book tour at the time. She just wrote a book about the incident. Trump was a heavily politicized and very divisive character at the time. You had countless Democrats looking to sabotage his presidency run in any way possible, and she was directly funded to file that report by Democrat donors.
Again, that's not reasonable doubt. Just because Reid Hoffman funded, quote unquote, this case doesn't mean that's reasonable doubt. It doesn't matter.
To oppress people beneath them and make them do things that they would under no circumstances normally do. That is not strictly a MAGA situation. And you put those people in power as well. So I don't want to hear that.
No, like for example, Eric Swalwell, he has credible allegations against him. We kicked him out, right? We kick out the people who do bad stuff.
Running with what's it called, Schwarzenkoff.
But guess what? That Democrat, hold on, hold on. Guess what? But guess what? That Democrat didn't know at the time what that meant. He said he walked into a tattoo shop, and let's say that's true. He then covered it up when he knew what it meant. He then covered it up. If he didn't cover it up after the fact, after he got called out for it, then no one would support him. If he knew what it meant and still had it on his body, no one would support him. But it's because of the fact that he took accountability, took responsibility, and said, "Hey, I should have known what it meant, but I didn't. I'm gonna cover this up because I now know the meaning. It's a horrible meaning. Therefore, I'm taking responsibility and accountability." But if he didn't do that, then no one would support him.
Again, that's ridiculous. So if Donald Trump had a swastika tattooed on his chest and he just looked at everybody and said, "I had no idea what that meant," and you got it covered up, you guys would accept that?
It wasn't that exact tattoo. What are you talking about? Like there are examples there are examples like some like
An SS skull of death.
Right. Yeah. I don't know the specific tattoo that he had.
Let's say Trump had a Totenkopf tattoo on him, and he covered it up, and he apologized. You would accept that?
If the story matches that of Plattner, the exact story, then yes.
You're shilling so hard for.
I literally said yes. What are you talking about? I literally said yes. If the story matches exactly that story of Plattner, then I would be most likely to believe, based on other prior offenses as well. Like if Donald Trump wasn't like. If Donald Trump wasn't a racist, then I would also absolutely believe that yes, he didn't know what it meant. Absolutely, he didn't rent to black people in the 70s. He got sued by the DOJ because he put C on colored people on their paperwork and didn't rent to black people or colored people, and then they settled outside of court. So yes, absolutely. He also depicted the Obama as monkeys and apes.
Did Trump receive awards from the NAACP for notable, outstanding contributions to the black community? Why is it that Trump, during his first administration, donated tons of money and federally funded historically black colleges?
That's false. Obama and Biden funded them at a greater extent, the HBCUs, and Donald Trump did it indefinitely for a very lower amount. If he didn't do that, the HBCUs would have had a significant more funding under Biden's term, but because he did that, therefore they didn't get a lot of funding.
These are actions that a racist would take. I mean, you can argue.
Yes, they are. Significantly, yes. Hold on. Significantly reducing the amount of funding that goes to an HBCU is actions that a racist would take. Absolutely.
He didn't reduce any funding.
Yes, he funded HBCUs to a greater extent. What are you talking about?
They funded them to a greater extent.
Yes, so Donald Trump reduced them. Thank you for conceding.
No, you're saying that they funded them to a greater extent.
Yes.
Donald Trump funded historically black colleges.
But my claim was that he defunded them. He reduced the amount of funding. A racist would reduce the amount of funding that goes to an HBCU. Absolutely, yes. A racist would dismantle social safety nets that greatly benefit minorities, right? A racist would dismantle all these social safety nets. A racist would depict the Obamas as monkeys and apes. Absolutely.
Okay, so again, that was a Trump staffer, and it was.
It wasn't. Trump admitted to this. Trump said that he watches all of his posts.
Okay, well, you could argue that he says that he watches all the posts. He stated directly that, well, it was stated explicitly in response to that media outlash from that nonsense that it was a staffer who had posted the video, and it was
at midnight. Why would a staffer have that on midnight? And then did he fire the staffer?
It showed the Obamas portrayed as apes in a King of the Jungle Lion King theme song where
I have a question. Did he fire the staffer?
Was portrayed as some sort of animal. I believe Adam Schiff was a meerkat.
Did he fire the staffer? Yes or no?
No, but
precisely the point. There's my point. I have a question for you. I have a question. If I were able to prove to you that Harris would have saved more lives than Trump, would you vote for Harris over Trump?
No, because I heard your comment earlier about USAID saying that it funded saying that it saved lives, when in fact you had a commenter on there that stated that USAID was in fact a slush fund because the money goes towards nonprofit organizations. It's a kickback towards Democrats. It really is a slush fund. Ever since USAID has cut, the funding for left-wing policies in the third world has plummeted, and that's why you're seeing a rise in right-wing populism across the globe.
That's not true. The USAID. Hold on, that's not true. USAID has saved 90 million lives throughout the last few decades, meaning because of the cuts to USAID, 14 million people would lose their lives because of countless of different reasons. Therefore, under Harris, she would have saved more lives because she would have kept USAID.
No, that's completely nonsensical. Not only is it hypothetical, it's
Based on statistics and facts and evidence. It's not hypothetical.
statistics. You would probably also say that statistics and facts coming out of the Southern Poverty Law Center are reputable, and
The Southern Poverty Law Center was not funding groups within the KKK. That's already been disproved.
yes, they were.
That's been disproved.
Lord. So not only that, there's so much to get into it with you. You spew just nonsense.
Notice how I've been able to disprove every single one of your claims, but you said you were going to come and disprove all of my claims and you didn't. I proved to you how Donald Trump was a rapist. I proved to you how there was credible allegations in the Epstein files, and I proved to you how he's worse president overall, and how Harris would have saved more lives.
No, so he's the president of the United States. He's not president of the third world. We could sit here and argue about these hypothetical lives that Kamala Harris would have saved, but that's nonsense. Again, all the evidence points towards USAID being a slush fund for Democrat funding.
But you have failed to provide any of that evidence. You have failed to provide any of that evidence, and we are getting protests. The No Kings protest that has been happening all across Donald Trump's term, all across the world. Have you looked at Albania, sir? Have you looked at Albania right now? Millions of people are protesting for the 27th day. Millions of Albanians are going out to protest.
Oh, I haven't seen anything about Albania.
Because you are delusional, and you're a cult member, and you deny reality.
Albania?
No, it's because of your feed, because you like Joe Rogan, you like, what's his name? All of those right people.
Again, in all honesty, I don't really much support Trump anymore. I don't think he's gone hard enough on ICE. When Minnesota...
I have a question, sir. I have a question. How do you feel about Hitler?
F. I mean, that's a bit of a loaded question. Historically, not so great.